everyone, and welcome to the Arlington Community Foundation's 2020 Spirit of Community Celebration. I'm Jennifer Owens, President and CEO of the Community Foundation, and I want to thank you all for joining us for this virtual gathering. The Spirit of Community Celebration, like most everything this year, is different. Normally, we'd be gathering together in person with more than 400 friends and colleagues for this celebration. In fact, last year we had a sold-out crowd. We know that you share our hope that next year we'll once again be able to come together face-to-face with our friends, neighbors, and colleagues to celebrate the people who make Arlington a strong and vibrant community. If 2020 has taught us anything, it's that we need to be flexible and nimble. This afternoon, we're going to recognize and honor the unsung local heroes who have supported the entire Arlington community throughout this pandemic. While we continue to face challenges, our ability to respond to our neighbors in need has been made possible by the hundreds of social workers, clinicians, food distribution and warehouse staff, resident services coordinators, and many, many others across our community. We are also pleased to be able to share interviews with two Arlingtonians who also happen to be leading global corporate giants Hilton and Nestlé. You won't want to miss their insights on everything from managing global and national responses to the pandemic in their respective sectors, to their connections to the Arlington community as our neighbors. And speaking of connection, we want today to be interactive, even though it's virtual. Be sure to join in the social media conversation using the hashtag Spirit of Community. We will be sharing your comments, which will appear in the Twitter live feed on your screen as you can see the conversation even if you aren't on Twitter. We invite you to post a picture showing from where you're celebrating virtually to share your own message of thanks to our honorees. It is my pleasure to be joined at a safe distance by my friend and our Arlington Community Foundation Board Chair, Avril Ussery-Sisk. Avril has been a thoughtful and present partner to connect our board and staff together in a unified push to be as helpful and effective as possible during this crisis. Community foundations exist to gather and mobilize resources to address critical community needs, and there may never have been a time in our foundation's history that this was needed more than today. Avril?
Thanks, Jen. Hello, everyone. We appreciate your welcoming us into your homes and businesses for this special occasion. This year has been a challenging one, to say the very least. I am proud to be able to serve alongside, at a safe distance, the other dedicated volunteers who are giving of their time, talent, and treasure to improve the quality of life in our community. Jen mentioned the word nimble earlier, and that is going to be the word of the year for the Arlington Community Foundation. In March, as the pandemic shutdown was rolling through our country and our community, we made a conscious effort to listen to what people needed and to be quick to answer their call. What attracts me to the Arlington Community Foundation is that it provides a flexible framework that allows us to do what is right in a way that works for real people who can't and shouldn't have to wait for the wheels of bureaucracy to start to spin. This was on full display when we made the rapid shift of our Prompt Response Fund to support those struggling with both the health and economic fallout of the pandemic. This Arlington community, all of you, stepped up in a big way to answer the call to be generous from those in need in our community.
Since March of this year, $1 million has been contributed to the Arlington Community Foundation's Prompt Response Fund from you, our neighbors, former residents, corporate partners, private and family foundations, and even a cosmetic tattoo parlor outside of Arlington. And we did our best to move that money quickly to address the evolving needs that were coming to our attention at a furious pace. Nonprofits with clients in need could request funds to address those needs. The simple online form could be submitted at any time, and a decision was made on the request the very next day. We even implemented an electronic funds delivery procedure that allowed the funds to be in the hands of the nonprofits the very next day after that. About 65 of our nonprofit partners received funds through this process, which translates into hundreds of our neighbors who got the just-in-time support they needed to weather this crisis. We would welcome you to join us so we can continue to support our community's most vulnerable by making a gift to our Prompt Response Fund, which you can do right now through the form available on your screen. It would be wonderful if we could raise $5,000 through the course of this luncheon. Give what you can, and know that the Community Foundation will use your gift to meet the right now needs of the people you see in this community every day. Our grants have supported things like personal protective equipment for frontline staff like those being honored today for their bravery and resolve to serve, even when it was a personal risk to them and their families. Your gift could be a nice way to say thank you to these selfless and often unseen heroes.
I'm making my own gift to this fund because I know that this crisis is far from over and that this money will be needed in the months to come as this continues to unfold. Whether you are able to make a gift or not, it feels good to come together like this to say a collective thank you to the honorees and to hear from our distinguished guest interviewees. But there are some others who should be thanked as well. I'm very pleased to take a brief moment to share my appreciation and acknowledge a few individuals for their help on this year's event. Thank you to the members of the Spirit Luncheon Committee and our Development Committee. I want to recognize our Arlington Community Foundation trustees and our wonderful staff. Please know that without your dedication to moving forward with this year's event, making this shift to a virtual celebration would not have been possible. Also, I want to pause here and recognize every person who has ever been a member of the ACF Board of Trustees. Thank you for the foundation you have laid. We are working hard to realize your tremendous vision for Arlington and the Arlington Community Foundation.
And of course, we are exceptionally grateful for those who flexed and moved with us to this new format, our sponsors of today's celebration. You will notice that there's a flipbook program for today's event on your screen, which you can browse during the course of the program as you would if we were sitting together in person. Please join me in thanking today's sponsors who make our continued work possible. Our gold sponsors, Battlefield Automotive, Mr. John Andelin and Ms. Ginger Jeffrey, the Honorable William T. Newman Jr. and Ms. Sheila Johnson, Meridian Investments, Inc., R4 Capital, Rich and Tang, Ms. Jean Broyhill and Mr. Joe Ventrone, and our silver sponsors, Mr. and Mrs. Richard and Jean Barton, Mr. John F. Benton and Mr. David W. Briggs, Castro Haas PLLC, Mr. and Mrs. George and Sue Cavucci, Enterprise, Glass Distributors, Inc., Lindsay Automotive Group, Manning and Murray PC, National Capital Bank, Reinsch Pierce Family Foundation by Lola C. Reinsch, Ms. Nancy Snell, Solomon Hess Capital Management, Strategic Analysis, Cindy and Joe McMahon Jr., Venterra Corporation, Wendriff and Associates, LLC, and our bronze sponsors and supporters whose names are listed now on your screen. Thank you for all of your support.
Yes, thank you, sponsors. Now, please allow me to introduce the namesake of our Spirit of Community Award, the Honorable William T. Newman, Jr. In 1993, ACF awarded the first Spirit of Community Award, named in honor of our distinguished President Emeritus, Judge Newman. Judge Newman is a lifelong Arlingtonian, the Chief Judge of the Arlington County Circuit Court, and our Arlington Community Foundation founder. Arlington is his hometown, and he has a long list of accomplishments and a lengthy track record of service to bring to the fore its better angels. Prior to his appointment to the judiciary, he was heavily involved in local community. In 1987, he was first elected to the Arlington County Board and served as its chairman upon his re-election in 1991. During his tenure in local government, he was elected president of the Washington Metropolitan Council of Governments and named by Washingtonian Magazine as one of the best trial judges in the metropolitan Washington, D.C. area. Prior to his time on the bench, he was a partner in the law firm of Carpenter, Newman, Martin, Berkowitz, and Gaines. He was also widely known as a talented thespian and regularly appears in local theater productions, an activity which I'm sure he is missing during this time. I know that he has been a keen supporter of youth programming, and he often cites his own experiences as a beneficiary of these programs as he pays it forward to encourage young people to reach their highest potential. Many times I have heard the judge, my friend, credit his service as a teen president of a local Jack and Jill chapter as the catalyst for so many good things in his life ever after, and he continues to encourage and support young people, particularly young attorneys, emphasizing that we all have a key responsibility to help foster and create the community we want to see in the future. I am pleased to know him as a friend and colleague. We are so pleased to have Judge Newman with us to introduce and narrate our honoree video.
Thank you, Avril. First off, let me say it is a privilege to present an award to the heroes we are honoring today, the frontline workers in Arlington County. Every year, I am humbled to have this award given in my name. Each year, I am also in awe of the accomplishments of those who embody the spirit of community and earn this distinction from the Arlington Community Foundation. Last year, I joked that I would give out this award until the day I am no longer able to do it, and I am thankful that I've been given another year to be here when so many in our country haven't. Though today is a day of celebration, I would also like us to take a moment of silence together to honor those who have lost their lives to this virus, including the frontline workers who have paid the ultimate price when they selflessly put themselves in harm's way to help others. Thank you. As you know, the William T. Newman Jr. Spirit of Community Award honors an individual, organization, or in this year's case, a group of people who have demonstrated a tireless and unselfish commitment to improving the quality of life in Arlington. And that certainly describes this year's honorees. Avril was right. Presenting this award has given me the closest thing that I'm going to get this year to being on a stage now that my local theater endeavors have been silent. The video you are about to see includes an introduction to the wonderful work of these honorees. So without further ado, it is with great pleasure that I introduce the winner of the 2020 Spirit of Community Award, our local heroes, the Arlington County frontline workers, who to this day are helping us to endure the COVID-19 pandemic with grace, dignity, and the true spirit of community. You could say that when we founded the Arlington Community Foundation, we did it with this day in mind. Of course, we didn't predict a global pandemic, but we did know that we needed to equip our community with a strong and flexible organization that could help our community weather any storm. That's what community foundations do. That's also what the frontline staff and our nonprofits do. And this is the storm of a lifetime. It's our good instinct, especially in times of crisis, to look for the helpers. They aren't always easy to see in the chaos. Today, we want to take a moment to see and to recognize the people who have answered the call to serve, the people who came at this crisis with everything they've got, hundreds of frontline staff and volunteers who have set aside their personal fears and safety during this crisis. The Spirit of Community is an annual recognition given by the Arlington Community Foundation to people who demonstrate a tireless and unselfish commitment to improving the quality of life in Arlington. Take a few minutes to join me in honoring this amazing group as you listen to their stories from the front lines.
We try to help people who lost their jobs, so they working less, giving them food, diapers, basic needs. In the beginning it was a couple people, but now it's growing and growing more and more. I remember the first day when we started with the meals, we need to call people to get the meals, and now it's more. I think some are new, they lost their job or they're working less hours. I know they're hard workers, but sometimes they don't they cover all the needs. I think we had a big group like social services, resident services, we helping with rent assistance, electricity, referrals for IFAC, clothesline, everything they need, we're here. So now we concentrate more on those necessities. It's a challenge, but it's very reward. It's you feel happy, you feel tired and everything, but you feel happy when somebody came and say thank you.
Maybe the biggest problem we have is less volunteers, because we have to keep everybody 6 feet away from each other, so it cares that we have less people there to help. To do my job, I want everybody to know is that it is definitely good, hard labor, but also the outcome is very good. If we have a good dent in the day, that means we give away a lot of food. And giving away a lot of food means less work for me to move things around. That's a good day in my job.
Arlington nonprofits and the County Department of Human Services have operated as Arlington's safety net for decades. Our honorees today are the frontline staff of the safety net nonprofits, as well as the county and our school social workers and others who have reinvented themselves to go beyond their normal lanes, go beyond their normal duties as assigned, to just jump in, all hands on deck. Our front lines, what are they seeing? This didn't work. Okay, let's come back, try something different. Let's try to cut down more paperwork. Let's try to create more avenues into services. Let's translate into more languages. Let's do what it takes to get to the people that need this now. And so it's been a continuous feedback loop, and our frontline workers, our frontline staff, our caseworkers, our social workers, our outreach workers, they're the ones that are really informing and keeping this working and telling us how it's playing out in real time. I can bear witness to the fact that they are giving it their 200%.
My job has completely changed after the pandemic. Most of the times you will have patients come in and work with them face to face. We have to think about all the equipment that we use in order to be able to talk to a patient now. It's totally different. Just the fact that they're not able to come into the clinic, walk in for questions. Phone call for them, it's like a big barrier right now. And I am happy how quickly we were able to manage and how we are managing our patients and how our volunteers are helping us go through this new stage. It is very important for us that our patients are able to be seen. If those things are being done, it is a great day. It is an amazing day, yes.
Families were making it, but all of a sudden with an abrupt change, so many families who were used to being able to pay their rent and eat food enough every day, they just didn't know where their next meal was coming from or how they would pay their rent. So that was a huge challenge, but the way we're overcoming it is that we got creative. We became collaborative in a way we've not been before. For example, our partners at DHS, we've always worked with, but suddenly we were on the phone every day. We were in meetings trying to figure out systems. How do we get food delivered to folks who had disabilities, who had kids who had disabilities? So we were collaborative, and we were innovative too. The generosity of the people of Arlington really wanting to help, and that was a pleasant surprise. I'm not downplaying how hard it was and still is, but I really saw folks in this community come together, and that was a big deal.
Since the pandemic hit the county, we are practically helping our residents to survive day by day, providing emergency services, providing rental assistance, whatever they need. I don't see any other county doing as much as Arlington is doing to address the first concern, which is where do people, which in normal conditions cannot stand isolated, where do they do the day? Where do they recover? Where do they spend that quarantine time? We are really doing an effort here to build a new kind of governance, a more humane governance. So everybody needs to be involved. It's not enough with just the county or your city or your public servers. Neighbors, everybody in this community needs to be involved, because what we are doing here is, since my point of view, developing the sense of community of Arlington for the next 50 years. We get involved here with people that is considered risky for the rest of the community. So I really, I need to highlight the courage of my coworkers. Being here when you are a caseworker, when you are a psychiatrist, or when you are an employment specialist, implies a personal decision of commitment. There is no bigger satisfaction than make the community feel that we will be there for them. Even under these circumstances, even under this kind of risk, it's important to let your community know that the county will be here, mostly today, especially today.
The people featured in this video are representative of hundreds more, and we salute them all. Arlington is a community that knows how to come together to get things done. And when we do, good things happen. Thank you again to these honorees for working hard, leading by example, and never giving up. On behalf of all Arlingtonians, thank you all for the dedication you have shown.
Our deepest thanks to Judge Newman for his support, and of course, to our frontline human service workers who have stepped up in ways that have made a real difference for our community. We will never be able to give back to you as much as you have given to all of us. I recently had the opportunity to spend time with Hilton CEO and lifetime Arlingtonian Chris Nassetta, as well as relative newcomer Steve Presley, CEO of Nestlé USA. It's important to us during this celebration of the Arlington community to share the perspectives, experiences, and vision of our corporate neighbors. The ecosystem of Arlington is a complex one, and the community engagement of our business community is an integral part of the success that we see as a whole. One way that Nestlé USA has stepped up, for example, is their charitable investment in childcare subsidies for low-income Arlington families who struggle to maintain employment without access to consistent, affordable childcare. Nestlé's contribution is part of our Shared Prosperity Partnership aimed at working on the issues that most often lead to the displacement of our low-income residents. Childcare, along with affordable housing and workforce development pathways, are essential to our viability as a diverse community. When I sat down via Zoom with Steve Presley, he shared Nestlé's experience in Arlington since they relocated here in 2018, and the engagement in this community they now call home. Thank you so much, Steve. I really appreciate you joining us. Can you tell me a little bit about your path to CEO of the largest food and beverage company in America?
Well, certainly. Yeah, I'm glad. Thanks for having me, but glad to share a little bit. You know, I'm a long-term Nestlé guy. I've been here almost 25 years. And I started my journey with Nestlé in Suffolk, Virginia. So a long time ago, 23, 24 years ago, I started in Southern Virginia anyway, in one of our factories, a coffee factory there, and have worked my way through the company and done a variety of roles, all from finance to operations to procurement to general management, and then on to CEO eventually. So definitely homegrown talent inside of Nestle and have done a lot. But I think as I've worked through all those opportunities and kind of moved around the country to where they go, it's always focused on really go where the problems are, go where the challenges are. And if you bring the solutions to the challenges, you'll continue to press the organization. And that's what I always did in my career. It's the advice I usually give all of our young talent is, look, go to the biggest problems, go where the challenges are. And that's the fastest way you'll get through the organization. And that's how I got here.
That's awesome. Well, Nestle is a relatively new neighbor for us here in Arlington. You personally are one of our neighbors also. Can you tell me a little bit about life in Arlington for you and what you enjoy about this community?
Yeah, so we've been here just over 2 years, I guess, now. And I think, as most people know, we relocated our headquarters from the Los Angeles area. And as the executive that led the project to kind of choose the location and move, you take the responsibility very seriously to choose a community that ultimately is a great community for all of the Nestle families that decided to make the journey across country and join you on the new in the new location. And for us, the relocation was really a catalyst. And as we started to settle on Arlington, it was really about the quality of life that our families would have, the quality of the schools, the quality, if you wanted to live in a city environment or the suburb environment, it had everything. It had an excellent public transportation. And it was just a community that we felt like we could lift our families from the West Coast and move them to the East Coast and settle them in, and they'd adjust really well. And what we've seen, what we've really been happy with the most is that our families have enjoyed it. It's been a great place for them to bring their families, raise their kids, go to school. And so we feel really good about the decision to get here in Arlington.
Is there anything that surprised you about Arlington that's different than you thought it was from your time in Southern Virginia?
So I'd say the biggest thing that surprised me going from Southern Virginia to Northern Virginia. Southern Virginia was a great community. We loved living there. Really nice military-heavy community being in the Chesapeake area. But it was a great place. Our son was born there, and we really enjoyed our time there. But as we've now settled in Northern Virginia, I think just surprised a little bit at how much of a big city it feels, right? It has all the great feel of a big city and all the benefits you look for in a major metropolitan area that I knew there'd be some, but I didn't realize it would be quite as strong as it is. And so it's been great. It's actually been a really nice personal transition for us as well.
How has your company embraced Arlington, and how do you feel Arlington has embraced your company?
Yeah, from day one, Arlington's been a great partner in our transition. And I think, and we try to be that great partner back in all the communities we serve, and including Arlington. And when you look at it from the early days working with the Arlington development team and just Arlington local officials, they were right there able to really jump in and help us bring whatever challenges we had. This was a huge move for us, right? It's a very large company, and relocating can bring significant risk in the business and just kind of disrupt everyone's lives. And the Arlington community really was strong in terms of just leaning in and helping us understand what our problems were, what our needs were, and making sure we got those sorted through really quickly that benefited both. And then our side of that has been, look, we always aspire to be a strong community partner in every community we operate in, including Arlington. I think we've done that in our first 2 years, but we'll continue to do more of that. We really think big businesses in Nestle, we try to be a force for good, and that includes the communities we operate in.
Well, speaking of being a good neighbor, before the pandemic, Nestle made a sizable contribution to the Community Foundation to improve access to quality, affordable childcare for low-income families in this community. Can you talk about the company values that led you to make this investment and what it means to you to know that you're making a difference on this important issue?
Yeah, look, we're really proud to be part of the work with the Community Foundation. I think the bringing childcare to low-income families and helping bring that is something we're really proud of, and we like to continue to partner there. But it's really whether it's partnering in that space or it's partnering with Food Challenge Children's with our new No Kid Hungry partnership, or any of the community programs that we work with to actually try to serve the community needs better. And it's not just a local thing for us. Actually, on a national level, if you look, we've donated millions of meals, almost 5 million bottles of water, whatever the need is through this crisis or even before the crisis, we want to be there to help. And as I said before, we really want to be a force for good in the communities and the nation where we serve. This is our largest market as a company. And so we want to make sure we have a large presence. We have a very large employee base, almost 40,000 employees in the US, in so many different communities. And we want to try to make sure we're a great partner in all those communities. So we really lean in on the community support effort.
That's great. Thank you so much. I really very much appreciate your support. It's been really tremendous to have this partnership with Nestlé. So many companies have faced difficult times during this pandemic, and I'm sure that you've had several issues to overcome at Nestlé. Can you tell me how your company or your job is different today than it was before the pandemic?
The way I describe it for our team is it's this seismic shift in our industry that really kind of overnight changed the way people eat and drink. And so our job is to react to that. But first and foremost, through the crisis, our number one mission is keeping our employees safe. And because of the stay-at-home orders and all the things, a huge portion of the essential workers have actually been Nestlé families going to work every day in our factories and our distribution centers and our frontline sales team in stocking the stores and our customers to make sure we can bring food and beverage to the customers. And so what we've really done is focused on how do we keep them safe in that environment, whether it's increased sanitation or temperature and health screenings as they come into the facilities, face masks, social distancing, all the steps that I think we should have been doing all along and we're doing now, but have really done a nice job to make sure we achieve that number one priority of keeping our employees safe. And what makes me proud every day is that our people have showed up every day through the crisis. We run our factories 24/7 through this as the demand has really shifted at home, and they've done an incredible job of serving their consumers in the U.S. And I don't think any of us had a playbook that we open up and we go, oh, okay, go to global pandemic page 7 and it'll tell us what to do, right? It's around building organizations that have the agility to tackle whatever the challenge is that's put in front of it. And this is the challenge today. And it's a big one. And it caused us to really change, working from home overnight for all of our corporate employees, running factories, keeping our employees safe, all those things that COVID required us to instantly shift. But the biggest change is, this really creates a revolution in food and beverage. And it's this at-home revolution as people have been staying at home. They've been baking more with their kids. They've been making, those coffee cocktails that they're serving from the cafes at home and sharing them online. And that revolution has been really large. It's been strong for our business, but in the end, it will change consumer behaviors and patterns for a period of time. Nobody knows how long this will go. Nobody knows, kind of where we return to some form of normal or whatever that means from the past. But what we do know is a lot of these patterns will stick and a lot of those behaviors will permanently change. And what we know is that our ability to work through this crisis, adapt to those changes, and be ready for which ones stick in the future is what our team's been able to do through this. And I'm really proud of the organization for the agility they've shown, actually been able to continue to run this business, continue to serve our consumers and customers really well through the crisis.
So thank you. At today's event, we're honoring the frontline human service workers of Arlington for their ability to step up and their willingness to walk into the fear and really push through and have the best possible outcome for as many of our neighbors as we can. And I'm wondering what you would say to the people in our community who have put themselves on the line in that way.
Yeah, first I'd say thank you and just humbled and honored to be part of the recognition for these people in terms of, every doctor, every nurse, every policeman, every fireman, every grocery store clerk, every food, I tell my industry, even my competitors, look, I'm really proud of our industry, all the frontline workers that have come together to actually serve the community more than themselves. Everyone was scared in the early phases of this, and everyone was kind of thinking about how best to manage this for your own situation or your own family. And these frontline workers every day went in and did their job because the country needed them to, and they did it incredibly well. So anything we can do to help support those workers across all of those, I mentioned some of them, but there's so many more in essential workers across all the industries that I'm so proud of. And even with that, I'm really proud of the Nestlé essential workers. Our factories, our distribution centers, and our frontline salespeople have been right there with them from day one, out in the marketplace every day. And I couldn't be more proud of our team and certainly of all the frontline workers that have risen to the occasion to help the country get through this.
So as we move through this crisis, what is your hope for Arlington?
for me, for Arlington, what I really hope is we come out of this stronger and better than we were as we went into it. I think Arlington has some really good momentum. The community we're in down in Roslyn for our headquarters is really experiencing some significant growth. And I want to see it come out and be stronger and better than it was even before, and continue those development missions, because we will return to some form of normal at some point. And as we continue to build, to think about how we make our communities better, how we make the services better that serve those communities, and whether it's big businesses like Nestle or small businesses, I think we can all come to this stronger together once we get through this. So that's really what I hope happens for Arlington, and not just for Arlington, frankly, for the country. I hope we come out of this a stronger country than we went into it. Look, we're honored to have our partnership with the Community Foundation and all the great work you guys do. We're honored to be considered in this conversation around great, really strong community partners. We want to continue to do that, and we really thanks for the time and look forward to our future partnerships.
Thank you. Thanks so much for your time, Steve. I really appreciate it. Hope we can meet in person one day.
Thank you.
Being the CEO of a company that is so integral to our food supply chain during a global pandemic is more than a full-time job. We really appreciate Steve taking the time to share his thoughts with us, and for Nestlé's ongoing and growing partnership. Another CEO who has seen a seismic shift in his work is hometown Hilton CEO Chris Nassetta. Chris grew up in Arlington, married his high school sweetheart, and raised his 6 daughters right here in Arlington. While the hospitality industry has been turned inside out, Chris manages to keep his signature optimism for the future. Hi, Chris. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining me.
Jen, it's great to be here.
Can you tell me a little bit about your history and connection to Arlington? I know you grew up here and you have wife, daughters, lots of daughters, an extended family close by. What's important to you to have your family here in Arlington, and what's special about this community?
I was born and raised in Arlington, so I'm getting ready next week to turn 58. So I've been here 58 years. And it's been an amazing platform for me, as a foundation of an amazing community to be able to do the things that I do. I went to public schools, as you pointed out. I met my wife at Yorktown High School. We got married. We've had 6 daughters, so we have a big family, all of whom, have been through the Arlington County public schools. My siblings are mostly all local. In fact, my two little sisters are my next door neighbors. So a lot of people kid us that it's sort of like a commune, our backyard sort of line up. And I have many, many friends that I grew up with in the Arlington community that are still amongst my best friends that I stay connected with. Every time I go to the Safeway to go shopping, inevitably I run into some of them and their kid, our kids and their kids. The thing that I think is special about Arlington that people, I think, sometimes miss, the Washington area can be a fairly transient community because of the federal government in pockets. That has not been my experience with Arlington. Arlington is very different. It's very family-based and very generational. Not everybody stays, but a lot of the people that grow up here, like me, have had such an incredible experience. It provided an amazing foundation, amazing values system, a family environment that we've stayed. And certainly I hope when I think about my 6 daughters that many of them will make that same choice, but time will tell.
So I heard that Friday night dinners in the Nassetta family are quite a thing. Can you tell me a little bit about what a Friday night dinner at the Nassetta house?
Well, it can be a Friday or a Saturday night. It depends. Okay. Friday night dinners have turned into, a dinner with my mother and father to, as they've gotten older, to make sure we're spending time with them. The only way to describe a typical Saturday night, if we are in town, is chaos. It will generally be a text to a group of people, including family, my sisters who live next door, my brothers-in-law, a bunch of friends that live in the neighborhood, saying, "Hey, we're here tonight. I'm going to cook. Who's available?" And a series of texts will go back and forth, and anywhere from 15 to 40 people will be there, and so I have to sort of go shop and go to the Safeway, get the things I need, and go through the whole process. And sometimes for very large groups of people, but we love it, and that that is sort of a what I do for a living, it's really interesting. I chose the travel business, which I love, and I can't imagine doing anything else in my life than what I do. But that means, other than during these times of COVID, I travel probably 80% of the time, mostly overseas. 1 week here, 1 week in a far-flung place overseas. And so when I come home, I go to great lengths to make sure that I get home on weekends. And then weekends become, even when the kids were small and now they're growing up, have always been about family time. And so the tradition of like cooking on a Saturday night was to create like a draw and something to do for the kids and their friends and our friends, that we could put everybody in the same place, see each other. And for me, in the line of work I'm in with all the travel, that and just having sort of my roots in this community were the foundation that allowed me to do all these things. And it's a real community, a real family-oriented community, and one that gives me the comfort to be able to do all the things I do in my professional life. I think if I had chaos and didn't have Arlington and my family and this community as part of my life, I wouldn't be able to do the things that I've done or have the success I've had in my professional life, just because I've always, I need that sort of foundation, that rock, that stability that Arlington's provided. We had 2.5, 3 wayward years where, when I came to run Hilton, I was recruited by Blackstone to come run Hilton in 2007, and the only way to take the job was to move to Beverly Hills, California. That's where Hilton was based. And I'll never forget the discussion about, are we really going to leave this an unbelievable, sort of ecosystem that has been so good to us for our whole lives and our children's lives, and disrupt all of that and go take this opportunity and move the whole family. We ended up doing it for 2 or 3 years. My wife still, kids that were like the Beverly Hillbillies when we showed up in Beverly Hills. We had a great experience, but it goes without saying, since we're back, after 2 or 3 years, we came back for a lot of good reasons. And it was really nice to come back and to have the Arlington community back in our lives that we missed so much for those 2 or 3 years.
So how do you think about your family's philanthropy? What values does your involvement in giving represent?
I was fortunate, like a lot of people, that, I had an incredible upbringing. My parents, who were still alive, still, live in the house I grew up in, instilled an incredible value system in all of us, which was part of the reason I like hospitality, was about being hospitable in a sense, and that is making sure that you're doing good things, that you're helping those that are in need, and particularly in your own community, not broadly, but also giving back to the community that has given you so much. In the case of Arlington, I think about my family, I think about me. All of us have been given so many gifts from being part of this community, and so I think our philosophy is to give back in lots of different ways. I think that importantly takes the form of time. My mother, I think, is the greatest example of all time. My mother, for over 50 years, since I was a little kid, has been volunteering at Virginia Hospital Center. She still does it, still has been going throughout COVID. I think it's over 50,000 hours of volunteer service now. So that's sort of the example that was set. Similar with the Arlington Free Clinic, another incredible local institution. And so I think it's about, to the extent you have time, in my mother's case, she had time. I'm not here much, so giving that kind of time would be difficult. But then supporting the organizations like both of those financially are so important. The community is only as good as we make it, those of us that live in it. The Arlington Community Foundation, obviously, it was put on this earth to do just that.
So you mentioned before moving back here from Beverly Hills and bringing the company with you. How has the company embraced Northern Virginia, and how has Northern Virginia embraced the company?
When we moved the company, there was a lot talked about and written about, that I was moving the company simply to go back home. And there may be an element of truth to that, but that's not really how it went. While Beverly Hills is a perfectly lovely place to live, it was a very difficult place to run a business. And my own philosophy was that the Northern Virginia area was a much better place to operate a big global company. Better infrastructure for air transportation, better quality of life, lower cost of living, bigger, better talent pool for the things that we do. And as a result, I thought we could build a better culture here. And while Hilton's been around a long time, now 101 years, and we'd been around 88 years back then, the reality is Hilton had sort of lost its way, and the things that made it so special, meaning its culture and its purposeful approach to how we operated, had sort of withered and had not died, but had withered a lot. And so part of the move to this area was about being able to transform our culture and inject more purpose back into the culture to get back to our founding principles of making the world a better place. That our founder, 101 years ago, Conrad Hilton, founded this company on the premise that he wanted to make the world a better place. He thought by allowing people to travel, giving them a safe, comfortable place, that you could exchange ideas, you could have cultural exchange, and create understanding that would make the world a more peaceful and a better place. And those are the roots of the company. We had lost those roots, and so could we have rebuilt that in Beverly Hills? If I had put my mind to it, maybe, but it would have taken a long, long time. And my view was that getting the company out of there and into an environment like this, that it had a lot of opportunities for us to have access to talent and a better quality of life, was going to allow us to build a better culture, allow us to get back on a more purposeful path in terms of the culture of the company. And I think it's proven to be true. We embraced Northern Virginia, and Northern Virginia embraced us. We've had a spectacular experience here in every way. The Fairfax County was amazing at what they did in welcoming us. The broader community has been. Our people now either were here or we brought them here, are now integrated into this community, and it's been an unbelievable experience. The greatest testament to which is that we went from nowhere from the standpoint of where our culture was to 2 years running the #1 great place to work in the United States of America. And you'll say, what does that have to do with Northern Virginia? It has a lot to do with it, because our ability to come here and be embraced by this community that allowed us to get back on our purposeful path and rebuild and transform our culture is the only reason that we've been able to build the best place to work 2 years running. And we're not done yet.
Yeah, doesn't seem like it. So this has been a difficult time for, so many people, the travel industry in particular. Can you tell me how your company and your job is different today than it was before COVID?
Yeah, my job is a lot different, and the company is different to a degree. My job is a lot different because I'm not traveling as I would. I mean, I traveled probably 80% of my life was on the road, mostly overseas travel. For the last 6 months, I've not done any of that. So in terms of my own mobility, it's very different. In terms of the focus, in the last 6 months, obviously very different. We were at the epicenter of this crisis. Everybody's in it, so we're not alone. I think everybody everywhere in the world is in it. But, this strikes at the heart of the hotel business, because you have restricted mobility everywhere in the world, and there is no way to do what we do without mobility. And so certainly the way I'm spending my time, not traveling, focused on crisis management, is very different. Having said that, we've been around a long time. The company's been around for, world wars, the Great Depression. I've personally been around through a lot of crises, including, the dot-com bubble burst, the S&L crisis, the Great Recession, and now the Great Pandemic. And the reality is, we're built to last. We've been around for 101 years for a reason. We're a very resilient bunch, a very entrepreneurial, gritty culture. And so while this is really difficult for us, and as you can imagine, there is opportunity in this too. There's opportunity that we think to position ourselves so that when we get through this, and we will, I'm an optimist by nature, but that's certainly what history would tell you, that we are a stronger company, a faster company, a leaner, meaner company than we went into it. And so my whole attitude, of course, in the beginning was focusing on, the basics of protecting people. We serve hundreds of millions of customers. We have hundreds of thousands of team members that need to be kept safe. We had to protect the core of the business, to make sure that the liquidity, balance sheet, our owner community was attended to. Those were the, sort of the activities of the day for the first 3 or 4 months. Now the activities of the day, while they don't involve a lot of travel, sadly for me, it's all about recovery. It's all about making sure that, that we are doing the right things so that as we get deeper into recovery and we get to the other side of this, that we're in a really good position and that we're continuing to serve all of our stakeholders both in the crisis and when we emerge from the crisis better than what we were doing before it.
Well, you mentioned recovery, and today we're honoring the frontline human service employees of Arlington with our Spirit of Community Award, which we give out each year. What would you say to the people in our community who put themselves out there at risk to serve during the crisis?
My mother's one of them, so I would say to my mother and everybody else that's on the front lines, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for all that you're doing. It's a word that gets overused, including by me, which is unprecedented. But this is an unprecedented time where everybody is impacted by this in some way, both personally and professionally. Every family is going through something, related to COVID-19. And we all have needs. And there have been folks on the front line across the spectrum that have been out there every day making our community better and stronger. And so I think a simple thank you. We care about you. We know the sacrifices that you're making, and we know this is not easy, and we support you.
That's right. Thank you. So what's your hope for Arlington as we move through? As you said, we will get through this crisis. As we move through it, what's your hope for Arlington when we come out the other side?
It's more than a hope. It's what I know will come of Arlington, having lived in this community almost 58 years next week. That we're stronger for it, that, with crisis comes opportunity. We have an incredibly special community. It's a community that has unbelievable value system, that has unbelievable family focus, generationally so. And so I think, like any crisis, I think the opportunity that I am confident Arlingtonians will stand up to is that we're better and we're stronger when we get through it, and that we have a tighter community that supports one another even more than we did pre-COVID. I know it's hard to think about that right now because we're still deep in the middle of the crisis, and it doesn't feel good, and we're not through it. But I'm confident in Arlington. I've lived through a lot here, and Arlington's a very special place.
We really appreciate Chris's perspective and his generosity of time in sharing it with all of us. Arlington is truly lucky that this hometown boy has chosen to continue calling our little community home, and that he and his extended family continued to give of themselves to make this a place that we can all love. We encourage you to continue to make donations to our Prompt Response Fund today and throughout the rest of the year. We would be grateful and humbled if you considered us in your year-end giving and throughout the year, whenever you're looking for a place that you can gift and make a difference in the lives of your neighbors. This event recording and the honoree videos will be available on our website at www.arlcf.org. We encourage you to share on social media and help us to spread the love to our honorees among your friends.
Thank you one last time to Judge Newman. And let's give one more virtual round of applause to all of our frontline human service workers. That concludes the 2020 Spirit of Community Luncheon. Thank you for tuning in, and we hope to see everyone at next year's, hopefully non-virtual event. Until then, thank you again for your steadfast support of our community, and have a great rest of your day.